Rumplestiltskin. This is adapted by Brian Conway and illustrated by Carolyn Crow. This is the story of a poor miller, his beautiful daughter, and the strange little man who changes their lives forever. One day the king calls the miller to his palace. "Good day, miller," bellows the king. "What gifts have you brought for me?" The poor miller is embarrassed because he does not have anything to give the king. "I am a poor man. I have only my work and my wonderful daughter," the miller says. "Well," says the king, "then tell me, what is so wonderful about your daughter?" The miller's daughter is a kind and lovely young lady, but that alone is not enough to impress the king. "She has a very special talent," says the miller. "She can take an ordinary pile of straw and spin it into gold." The miller's boastful lie impresses the king. "My, that is a wonderful skill," he says. "I would like to meet her." The miller rushes home. He tells his daughter the king wishes to meet her. She is excited to meet the king, but does not understand why he wants to meet her. Back at the palace, the king's servants lead the miller's daughter to a room filled with straw. They tell her to sit down at a spinning wheel. "Spin this straw into gold by morning," a servant says. The miller's daughter is puzzled. Alone and frightened, the poor girl begins to cry. Suddenly, the door swings open and a strange little man appears. "Why are you crying, young lady?" he asks. "My father made a promise," she sobs, "a promise I could never keep. I know how to spin wool, but how do I spin straw into gold?" "Oh, that's easy," says the little man. "I will do it for you, but you have to give me something in return." The miller's daughter has nothing but a necklace and a ring from her mother. She hands it to the little bearded fellow, who sets to work immediately. He spins the piles of straw into brilliant spools of gold, and before morning he is gone. The next morning the king is delighted to see all the spools of gold stacked in the little room. "Very good," he says to the miller's daughter. "Your father was right. You are very talented." The king leads her to another room that is filled to the ceiling with straw. "I will leave you here until tomorrow morning," he says, "and I will marry you if you spin all this straw into gold." Shocked at the king's odd proposal, the miller's daughter does not say a word. The king leaves her with the straw, and she stares at the wheel helplessly, sobbing for hours until nightfall. Then the strange little man arrives again. "You need my help again," he says with a grin. "What can you give me?" "I have nothing else to give you," she says sadly. "Then give me your firstborn child when you become the queen," the little man suggests. Seeing no other choice, the miller's daughter agrees. By morning, the little man has many more neat spools of gold. "Look at all this gold," the king exclaims. "You are a very special young lady." A magnificent wedding is held that day, and the miller's daughter becomes the queen of the kingdom. A year later, the queen gives birth to her first child. The queen loves her daughter more than anything in the world. Her life could not be better. By now, she has forgotten all about the strange little man and the promise she made. But the little bearded man soon appears to remind her of her promise. "I cannot give you my child," the queen protests. "Take anything else, please, but do not take my baby." "A promise is a promise," the little man says, "but I see how much you love your daughter, so I will give you another chance." The little man makes a deal with the queen. If she can guess his name within 3 days, he will allow her to keep her baby. The queen sits up all night. When the little man returns, she is ready with a long list of names. "Is it Alex, Abraham, Boris, or Bruce?" she asks. All through the night, with every name she reads, the little man just shakes his head. She does not have any success the next night either. On the third day, the worried queen sends her messengers out to search for the most unusual names in the kingdom. As one messenger returns from his search, he hears a little man singing in the forest. "She'll never guess, and I'll win this game," he sings, "for Rumplestiltskin is my name." When the little man arrives that night, the queen says, "Is your name Rumplestiltskin?" While the queen smiles and holds her baby close to her, the little man stamps his foot so angrily that he falls right through the floor. The queen never sees the strange little man again, but she never forgets his name.